happening down there was we had a gentleman from the newspaper taking pictures so that we can actually be in the newspaper talking about what we're doing here this morning. So, what is going on, you're all wondering? Well, we've got a very, very special visitor this morning. We have got this gentleman here who is called Mr. Brayley. And Mr. Brayley was a teacher here quite a long time ago. He was a teacher here about 50 years ago. We were talking last night, and interestingly, Mr. Brayley retired before I began teaching. So he's got a lot of knowledge and a lot of history about this place, and I've been fascinated talking to him over the last evening over dinner and hearing about all his stories that he had from his time teaching. But the very special part of today is that when Mr. Brayley was here 50 years ago, when he was a teacher here, he had some children about your age on the back row. He had some children, a group of children who had a film club. And part of that film club, they actually made a little film. But what was quite exciting about that was that film won a national competition. And they won, out of all the schools in the whole country, they won a very special prize. And we're going to look at that film today. But we've got some other special guests as well, because sitting on the front row over there, we've got two special people who were actually Mr. Brayley. Oh, another one over there. There you go. Missed you out, sorry, the latecomer. They were actually Mr. Brayley's children in his class in that film club all those years ago. And then come back specially to watch this little film that we're going to show you. Now, it's an unusual film. I'll let Mr. Brayley talk in a minute, but it is an unusual film in that, well, it'd be unusual to you. It's not necessarily unusual to the grown-ups, but it's unusual because there's no sound. There's no talking in it at all. It's a completely silent film, which you're going to find a little bit weird watching, I think. And there's something else unusual about it. I wonder if anyone can tell before we even start playing it. What else might be a tad unusual? Liam? It's in black and white. And of course, that's not something you're used to, is it? My children can't even fathom a life before remote controls, let alone black and white films. But we're going to watch it in a little while, but I'm going to let Mr. Brayley say a few words before we begin. Okay, and you're going to be as beautifully well behaved as you were while you were waiting this morning. So well done. So Mr. Brayley, would you like to say a few words?
Oh, well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Yes, it's a long, long, long time since I was here. It's all changed, of course. The films that you're going to see in a few minutes, we made for this competition. And it was a time when, if you took a photograph, you had to put a film into your camera. When you've taken not many pictures, sometimes it was about 12, 14 pictures, or sometimes if you had a very posh camera, it was 36 pictures. You had to take it somewhere, and the film had to be what was called processed. That means it had to be turned into, so you finished up with some pictures, some prints. You didn't know straight away whether your picture was any good or not. So when we were making the film, we had to do the film, take the film, send it away. We had to wait a week, perhaps even 10 days, before we got it back to see whether the stuff we'd shot or we'd taken was any good. So it was a bit difficult doing that. Also, of course, there was no sound. We couldn't, in those days, the cameras didn't have a microphone in them. I mean, nowadays, with a digital camera, you can take a picture, people talk on it, you hear any sound. Couldn't in those days. In fact, there were no computers then. Only black and white television. There were only about 3 television stations. No mobile phones. No computer games. Or iPods or the other things you can have these days. Oh, tablets, that's right. Tablets were things you took when you weren't feeling very well. You can't do that with me. So it was all very, very different. Anyway, I won't spend a lot of time talking about things that happened while we were making that. Perhaps we can do that afterwards. But let's look at this film. It's not very long. It's a story. The children thought up the story. They had to think how to tell the story in pictures. And they filmed it quite precariously. I'll see if I can find that picture. Where is it? Oh, God. There's the cameraman. A young man called Stephen. He's balancing on a breakwater down on the beach. And anyway, I had to look at the film. I suppose you don't know what film this are, do you? We used to have to project it. When I wanted it, that's it. And lots of pictures there. We didn't have videos. If you hadn't got a projector that could show this, you couldn't see it. So you probably haven't seen it since many moons ago. After you start, it'll be a shock. Anyway, I had that film put onto the DVD, and that's what you're going to see. But that particular piece of film there is over 50 years old, and I'm afraid it's got to be paid, and transferring it as well to make it paid. And we haven't got any blackouts in here, so it's a very bright room. So you'll have to look very, very carefully to see what's going on. But I hope you can understand what's going on, and I think it all. I hope you enjoy what you see. So.
And I'd like to just say to the seahorses, because you've been learning about film, haven't you? You've done a whole project on film with Mrs. Barlow at the beginning of the year. So seahorses in particular need to be looking at the camera angles and the types of shots that are being taken, because you are the ones who have that knowledge, because you've done all that work on it. And I want you to be thinking as you watch, oh yeah, I know why they've done that. Oh yeah, I know why they did that. Okay, so have a real think about it. It is about 10 minutes long, so you are going to have to concentrate, and there's no sound, which is going to be really weird. But I want you to watch it really carefully. I've watched it twice now. I think it's great. I think it's hilarious. That could just be me. But I want you to be really, really, really concentrate hard. Okay? Brilliant. Already?
Fingers crossed that you can see.
Yeah, fingers crossed it works.
Oh, can't, can you?
Yeah, it's not too bad.
trouser pocket. That's a horrible lump of seaweed. We were going for a crab, but we couldn't find one. them get into very rude mischief or, falling in water or anything like that. Actually, it was very funny because we only made it during dinner times and after school. And so it took quite a long time to make it. And people came down for their holidays and of course wanting for their beach huts. And we'd take a picture, we'd take a bit of film one day with the beach hut all shut up. Go down there and a bit later on take another shot. And there were these people sitting outside. Well, of course you couldn't suddenly have people appear in front of a beach hut and disappear. So they very kindly put all this stuff and packed it back in the beach hut while we filmed, and then directly we finished filming, they came out again. And the last shot, where the boys jumped over the breakwater and went into the water in all their clothes, there were some grown-ups who happened to be watching us doing it. And they thought that I was very, very, very odd. What kind of mad teacher was that allowed boys in their clothes to jump into the water and not stop them? It's crazy. But no, it was. Did you follow it all right? Did you understand what was going on?
Do you all know what a pincher is? What it means to pinch? What does it mean to pinch something? To steal something. We wondered, because it's not a word we often use nowadays, is it pinching?
Yeah. Pinch means to take something that doesn't belong to you. But, no, it's a pity that it wasn't clearer. It is, what you see it on a television screen or dark room, it's very much better than that. But anyway, thank you.
I think it's marvellous. Did you enjoy watching it back? I think it's really clever. What I would love, actually, I've just been sitting there thinking about this, teachers can go, wouldn't it be really good if some of our children, perhaps seahorses, because you've got the knowledge, maybe they could put sound to it or script it and record a script to have over it. And maybe say, I can say that because Mrs. Barlow's not here. So let's plan it while she's not here, then she can't say no. Do you think you'd like to do that? I think that'd be quite cool maybe, or maybe your class have a go at doing that, to script it out, because you can tell exactly what should be going on and what they should be saying to each other. And I imagine the types of music that would be going on. I mean, I'm a fan of black and white movies, a massive fan of Harold Lloyd, who you won't have even heard of, but the types of music that I imagine in a Harold Lloyd film could be playing that chase scene, for example, that sort of thing. And I just think it would be amazing if we could try and do that. I think it would be brilliant. So did you all get what went on? You can tell me what that story was about. What were they doing? Just roughly, what on earth was going on? Demi, you were fascinated, Demi. Your little face was like that. Demi's face when we said, no mobile phones, her face went, what was going on, do you think, Demi? Absolutely, you've got it absolutely right. They've got no money because he found that hole in his pocket, so they pinched the girls' picnic. How did the boys know that the girls were coming? When they were hidden behind that beach hut, how did they know the girls were on their way? Yes, Roxana. That's it. They heard the milk bottle go over, didn't they? Even though we didn't hear it. What kind of shot was used then? What kind of shot did they use on the milk bottle? Nikki? A close-up shot. So then, how did the girls know how to find the boys? That was the hardest bit, I think. That was quite difficult to realise. How did the girls know where the boys were? Because that was tricky. I thought you all got that really well. Jessica? They did. They left little bits of litter. Was it biscuits falling out of the packet?
Biscuits fell out of the packet.
Yeah, I thought so. And at one point I thought, was that I thought it was a lid of a bottle
No.
for a minute, but then I realised it was actually biscuits falling out of the packet, and they followed it a bit like Hansel and Gretel following the trail of breadcrumbs. So there were lots of detectives, weren't there?
This is where, of course, it had been in colour. It would have been, oh, in fact, if you'd seen it in a very dark, it wouldn't have been clearer. The fact that the biscuits would have shown up
Yeah.
much more. But the full colour film, sorry.
I think it's made. So it was made in 19. It was actually made in 1964.
Made in 1964, and in 1965 we went to this competition, young filmmakers competition, and we got a letter to say that we tied first place with a school, junior school in London. And we had they gave us this award, a beautiful shield thing, which we were able to keep for, I don't know, it's probably not so bad as the award. Very posh.
We'd like to try and trace the award to see where it might be now, because it obviously got handed to different schools.
Yeah.
I think it must be still out there in the ether somewhere. Probably just ended up staying somewhere.
John Craven took over the competition in the 60s, the later 60s.
Yeah.
And it became quite a big thing, tied in with Newsround.
Ah.
Yeah.
Right, Mr. York, some homework.
We've got to keep here, we have this beautiful certificate.
What's brilliant about this is, I mean, nowadays when we get certificates, they're just printed off a computer or something, aren't they? They just, you type something in and it all comes out fancy. This is hand done on beautiful paper. It's actually calligraphy and it's been handwritten. It's beautiful.
The only one in the world.
Yeah, and we get to keep it. We're going to try and display all this stuff. We're going to put a big display up somewhere. I'm going to twist somebody's arm. So I want a nice display that says 50 years celebrating, da da da. And we're going to have all these photographs up for you to see and the certificate. So I think it's something from Langer's history that we should be very, very proud of. I think it's utterly fascinating. I'm so pleased Mr. Brady got in touch. I can't tell you. So thrilled to have you here. So children, well done. You've done really well this morning. I think Mr. Brayley and his ex-pupils need another big clap.